My name is Edward. I'm 34 years old at present, but the tale I'm going to recount began when I was 24. At that time, I wasn't precisely the favored son in my household. My sibling, Melissa, who was 2 years my senior, was the individual everyone relied upon. She was the dependable type, the one who invariably knew the appropriate words to utter, the perfect moment to grin, and the way to reassure our folks that she had matters well in hand. In contrast, I was still discovering my path. I harbored ambitions of launching my own venture, and although I lacked wealth or extravagance, I labored diligently at a reliable position, setting aside whatever modest amount I could and striving to construct a prospect. Yet from my parents' perspective, that fell short. The initial fracture in our relations surfaced when my grandfather departed this world. He wasn't affluent by conventional measures, but he had toiled throughout his existence, conserved prudently, and bequeathed a humble legacy. He had consistently treated me and Melissa justly. During our upbringing, he never pitted us against each other, never caused me to sense inferiority. He frequently remarked to me, "Edward, you possess the spirit of a visionary, and visionaries might falter, but they invariably rise even higher afterward." Those sentiments lingered with me, and I held on to them more tightly when the execution of his testament occurred. For on that occasion, my existence veered dramatically off course. The document was straightforward. He had apportioned his funds evenly between Melissa and myself. It wasn't a fortune, but it represented a meaningful amount for an individual like me, who had been managing with mere resolve and a sparse purse. For me, it signified possibility. Evidently, for Melissa, it signified an entirely different matter. I can still recall the expression on her countenance that day, a strained grin, her gaze darting toward our father as if they shared some covert amusement. Mother wiped her eyes with a handkerchief, whispering about how grandfather was such an honorable figure, but her tone was faint, preoccupied. And father, he reclined in his seat with folded arms, observing me with a sneer I would become all too familiar with. Initially, no irregularities appeared. The attorney delineated the division, outlined the particulars, and distributed the documents. However, in the ensuing weeks, circumstances altered. Discussions began to seem amiss. Melissa interjected subtle remarks, meticulously phrased yet pointed enough to linger. "Are you certain you'd manage that sum wisely, Edward?" She would inquire offhandedly during meals. "You've never excelled at dependability." Father would guffaw each instant she voiced such notions. "She raises a valid observation," he would append. "Wealth entails significant obligation. You've perpetually been inclined to, well, envision grandly but execute modestly." The initial occasion he uttered it, I mustered a grin, dismissed it with humor, but internally, a heaviness settled in my core. The subtle undermining of me intensified gradually, relentlessly. Melissa was astute. She never assailed me outright, never in a manner that would tarnish her image. Rather, she gradually sketched a portrait fabricating tales of my unreliability, how I overlooked payments, I hadn't. How I mishandled my vehicle, I didn't. How my lifestyle demonstrated I couldn't cope with an affair as grave as a bequest. And each time she inserted a remark, my parents embraced it as unquestionable. We can't tell the full story in a short video. If you want to see the full story, click the link in the